Hello and welcome to Gabbit Media. I'm Grant Abbott and today you're watching animation number 6, which was Lovingly. And you can see my animation here.
I love you, 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 I love you.
So it worked out fairly well, although it's not as far as I would have liked to have gone. It took me a long time to get this working, and there's much more that I could have done, certainly with some of the sort of smoothness of it. It's very jolty. So there was issues that I had, as always, but it's a good learning experience, as always, as well. So you can see the first thing I'm doing here is setting up the markers. So if you press M in your video sequence editor, or sequence editor I think it's called now, then you get a marker, and Control M will rename that marker, and you can go along and sort of label your words phonetically, sort of thing, so you can see where things are. And then once you've done that, you can sort of position your mouth accordingly. Try not to go 1 frame apart, at minimum of 2 frames apart when you're doing sort of the mouth moving like this. I don't know why I did that, but that will help you, because if it's too quick, it just doesn't look quite right, in my opinion anyway. So I was going through doing that, and that was the first stage, sort of blocking that out, and there was a lot of repetition, so love you, love you, love you. There was lots of it, so I could sort of repeat that. And even with copying and pasting, this whole project seemed to take about 5 hours, which is surprisingly long, really, for such a short animation which had lots of repetition in it. I think the issues I came up against, the classic issues, 2.8, kind of failing me again. I suppose it's not quite ready for animation, I would say, just yet, and I should just start off in 2.79. But there was things that I really wanted to use 2.8 for. The problem I came up against was, surprisingly, the pole targets for my IK just keep on disappearing. Every time I bring a rig in, I can't see the pole targets anymore, so I'm not sure what's going on there and what's happening. Shame, really. It might just be the rig's not really quite being compatible in some way. This is a really nice rig. It's from Blend Swap. It's called Eleanor, and I think the person is called Pole or Pole or something like that, who created it. Really great rig. It doesn't have you can't switch between IK and FK, well, as far as I can see, so which is a shame, because otherwise I'd think I'd use this much more, because it's just a great fun looking rig. It took me a long time also to sort out the materials, because they were in Blender internal, so switching them over to sort of Eevee and Cycles took a while. You can see that I've sort of blocked out, and I'm trying to go into the curves to smooth things out a bit, and I didn't quite get it right. I thought I had it right when it was the first I love you, but then I noticed glitches as it was going I love you, I love you, I love you. So I had to sort of try and smooth the curves out altogether, and that's quite straightforward. So I noticed the mouth was going too wide and then in too much, so I just sort of squished the curve, these 2 points, I just sort of squished the curves down in the X direction as it happened to be, and it made it all a bit smoother. So it kind of worked, and that's the great power behind the graph editor. Also, I'm trying to go in and edit my curves to sort of make them smoother. It's often that your Bezier handles are, they sort of skew-if, as it were. That's a Suffolk term from England, Suffolk. Skew-if, I think that's a Suffolk term anyway. On the H as well as sometimes the phrase. Anyway, if it's not in line with your curve, that can cause problems, and it sort of makes your curve a bit wobbly. So watching out for that, trying to smooth all the curves up. I could have done a lot more with the curves. I think there was probably too many keyframes in some places, so when the head's moving, it sort of jolts a little bit, and there would have been a nice, I would have preferred to have a nice sort of fluidity to it. So I was a bit frustrated with that. The lip syncing is what took ages. It was smoothing out those little inaccuracies, and spotting those inaccuracies as well, and where they were, and pinpointing them on the graph editor to tidy them up was actually really tough. So again, massive learning curve, and hopefully I've gained some experience from that for next time. But it's not as easy as it may seem. It's a good idea to have a side view and a front view, and a sort of perspective view when you're animating. So I usually set up sort of 3 windows. I haven't got them in this case, but earlier I did, and it's just helpful to see, because your mouth, when you're going whoa, your lips come outwards, and obviously go outwards when you're ah and so forth. So there's lots of sort of keyframes that you've got to think about, and the 3 dimensions you've got to think about as well. And it's easy just to do everything sort of flat on front view with the mouth, and you're sort of moving up and down and out, but it does move out the front as well. So do bear that in mind when you are animating lips. This one I had to go back to 2.79 because of my poll targets. If anybody knows why my poll targets are missing in 2.8, please let me know. So this is the IK poll targets. They just don't seem to come in. With loads of rigs that I've brought in, they don't seem to be showing. So any ideas would be greatly appreciated if you can let me know. Any advice as well, because you can see that I'm a beginner. There's been some lovely advice from people. I was going to show one in this episode actually. Someone gave me some great advice and I forgot what it was. Forgot who it was, sorry. But there was some good stuff in there, and I thought, oh, thank you for that. It is much appreciated. Yeah. So, and do give advice to other people on the Facebook group and the Discord server. It really does make a lot of difference. And if you are like me, make sure you are accepting that advice, even if maybe there's some people that aren't quite getting that advice right, but still look at it and accept it and think, oh, maybe there's something there. It's not always the case. Often it is very useful advice, so do look at your advice and look at your work critically, is what I'm trying to say. Some students I have, you have to be very delicate when you're giving them advice because they take it very personally. But it's very important that you are able to take criticism. Really, really important. I think that's one of the most important things as an artist, that you can take some criticism and understand when that criticism is fair as well. Anyway, I didn't use many references for this. I did have myself in front of the camera going, I love you, like this. It wasn't that beneficial, and it was hard to find references specifically for this. So I was sort of acting it out as I was going along, thinking, I love you, I'll have the head move up and the shoulders move forward and all things like that whilst doing it. And that's why it does help to kind of get over yourself and just do a bit of acting. I won't show any of my acting. I did record myself, but it wasn't very good. It's a good idea to really just go for it and go over the top with your acting if you are going to act, and when you're moving and thinking about it, and exaggerate your movements when you are animating as well. It's I've said before, the difference sort of between theatre acting and acting in front of camera. With theatre, you really overemphasise your movements and things, your whole body moves, and that's I think important when you're animating. The Animators Survival Guide is a good one. I'll put the link in the description. It'll be an affiliated link, so you'll be supporting me if you do purchase it through that link. But it is a great book full of really great detail that's well worth looking at if you haven't got it already. Yes, I've said all those other things. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. I've been working on a tough contract recently, and not that the person I was working with was tough, it's just the contract itself was tough. And it kind of went a bit pear-shaped because I ran out of time. And the reason it did that, it was partly my fault, partly the lack of communication, not the right communication between me and the client when trying to communicate how difficult things are, how tough they are, and how long they're going to take. And one of my problems is I tend to overestimate or underestimate the amount of time it's going to take. I tend to have a look at it with a best case scenario. So I'm thinking, oh yeah, like this, that's why I'm sort of referring to this. I thought probably 2 hours for this one. I should be able to get this done a bit quicker this time, and maybe hopefully have some time to spend on those nuances, the really minor animation bits that give the character real character. But there's always things that hold you up. There's always something that gets annoying, and it's important that you don't sort of underestimate how long it takes you, because you'll get more annoyed at those things when they go wrong, like uploading to Sketchfab seems to be very difficult, or even just outputting to an MP4 and all these sort of things are frustrating, but you have to factor those in. Factor in rendering times when you get a contract. Those sort of things I always forget about, and I end up underselling myself a lot of the time. and it's not a good place to be in, because you get more frustrated with the work and it becomes more stressful, and that kind of happened to me with my contract. I thought I could do something a bit quicker than I could, and it ended up taking a lot longer than I was hoping, just for these little things that you don't expect, and you think, oh yeah, I've got to do that and I've got to add that in. So get that time you think it's going to take and double it, I would suggest. Anyway, so back to this final piece here.
I love you, I love, 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 love you. I love you, I love you, I love, 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 love.
It's worth saying I got the sound as well from freesounds.org, and you can get lots of good sounds there. Thank you for the hello there, Lord Diogo, I think it is, yeah. Good stuff with your run cycle. Another good one from, oh dear, I've forgotten the name. It will come back to me later. Sorry about that. If you put your names at the bottom of your screen when you're in your record, when you output, that would be helpful. Then I can name people as I'm seeing them, but you can see your work and be pleased with it. Some lovely stuff, really nice work. Everybody's got it right this time in terms of the arm and leg being opposite this time, so well done. The people are obviously improving. Some runs are a bit in slow motion. You can just scale your keyframes if you're finding it's a bit too slow, or when you collate your files, just speed them up. It's the easy way to get your timing. I would say it's nice also that some people aren't just doing a cycle. Some people have sort of head looking around, turning. That's a good idea. Sorry if they're coming out a little bit small in this case. The best way I can do it when someone uploads a YouTube video is to do a screen capture like this. So it's a bit of a pain still with the uploading process. If you can upload them to the Discord as an MP4 file, then I can just easily download it and drag it into my Premiere file. That's the easiest way for me to do these things. But I'm getting there. Getting there with importing them all. It does take a long time, but it's nice to get more people's on here rather than just the best. So well done to everybody, and I hope you're learning lots like I am, and I hope it's not too stressful trying to get it all done in time. Don't worry about the end result, more worry about your learning process, and think at the end of each one, what have I learned, and kind of review it, like I am at the moment reviewing my own work. It really does help, and then you'll be better the next time, obviously, because you'll be learning. Anyway, happy animating, and I will see you next time.